Unless you've been living under a rock in Formula One terms for the last few days, you probably noticed that there was a fairly season-defining moment taking place last Sunday at Silverstone. The fallout and debate from the British Grand Prix collision between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen has been nothing short of extraordinary. Other than a stiff neck, Verstappen has been declared fit and healthy after his massive 51G impact at Cobb's Corner. The incident, however, has stoked the fires of a potentially heated title rivalry for the remainder of the season. It was all fairly amicable for the first few races of this campaign, but now there's a real intensity to this rivalry. What unfolded between the Mercedes and Red Bull drivers has naturally brought back memories of some of the great clashes between F1 title rivals in the past. So here at GPFans, we made a list of the top 5. Number 5, Sebastian Vettel and Mark Webber, Turkey 2010. Whilst Vettel took the first of his 4 World Championships in 2010, it's easy to forget that the German only led the standings for the final race of the season in that year and never before. Red Bull's biggest chance for the title was actually Mark Webber, who had taken 2 victories ahead of the Turkish Grand Prix to sit just behind McLaren's Jenson Button in the F1 standings. The Australian was leading at Istanbul as his teammate closed in through turn 11 and down the straight. A slight move across from Vettel caused contact between the pair, resulting in Webber being forced to settle for third and the German retiring. At the side of the circuit, Vettel gestured that his teammate was crazy. The resultant divide would remain between the two drivers until Mark Webber's retirement in 2013. Number 4, Michael Schumacher and Jacques Villeneuve, Jerez 1997. In 1997, Villeneuve battled Schumacher for the title in just his second season in the sport. The fight went down to the wire in Jerez, with one of the most dramatic qualifying sessions ensuring tension remained high going into the race on Sunday, with Schumacher, Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Jacques Villeneuve all posting identical times. Tempers had already flared in practice that weekend as Ferrari used Schumacher's teammate Eddie Irvine to block the Williams driver, following which an argument in the pits ensued. Ahead of the Grand Prix, Villeneuve stated his only worry was being taken out of the race, a quote spoken only to disrupt Michael Schumacher. Villeneuve dropped from pole to behind Schumacher at the start, but by lap 47 the pair were wing to wing. The Canadian pulled to the inside at the hairpin to take the lead as Schumacher turned in, knowing the championship was over if Villeneuve finished ahead. Cue the famous Martin Brundle line, "That didn't work, you hit the wrong part of him, my friend." Contact was made, but whilst Villeneuve continued and went on to take the title, Schumacher was left in the gravel and was later disqualified from the championship for his actions. Number 3, Lewis Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, Spain 2016. Hamilton may be getting too close to comfort with Max Verstappen at the moment, but it isn't the first time he's collided with a championship rival. In 2016, after 2 years of tight tussles with his teammate and childhood friend Nico Rosberg, the rivalry exploded in dramatic fashion. Rosberg led the Spanish Grand Prix through the first 2 corners, with Hamilton following in second, but the German began to decelerate through turn 3, allowing the then 3-time champion to close the gap. Spurred on, Hamilton went to the inside at turn 4, but Rosberg squeezed him onto the grass. With no control, the British driver skidded into the side of Rosberg, taking both of the drivers out of the race. If that wasn't enough, there would be even more contact at the Austrian Grand Prix, where Rosberg would take a late apex at turn 3 on the final lap, running into Hamilton and breaking his own front wing. Now, Hamilton refused to be drawn into the blame game in Barcelona, but at the end of the race in Austria, he clearly pointed the finger at Rosberg, stating, "It wasn't me that crashed." After winning the Drivers' Championship at the final race that season, Rosberg retired from the sport as the reigning champion, never to drive again. Number 2, Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill, Australia 1994. No real surprise that Schumacher is making his second appearance on this list if you remember what the German was like with his title rivals, and this time he was battling Jacques Villeneuve's former teammate Damon Hill. In '94, the championship was controversial from start to finish, with Schumacher disqualified and banned for ignoring black flags at Silverstone, while he was also thrown out of the Belgian Grand Prix that year. Despite this, he led the championship by a single point heading into the season finale at Adelaide. In the race, the Benetton driver was ahead of his rival Hill before a mistake at turn 5 put Schumacher into the wall. As Hill saw his chance to move ahead into a championship winning position as the stricken Schumacher opened the door at the next corner, but the German swung back across the apex, almost rolling as the two tangled. Hill's suspension was unfortunately broken in the incident, ensuring Schumacher would clinch the first of his 7 world titles, albeit in one of the most notorious incidents in F1 history. Number 1. Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna, Japan 1989 and 1990. It's happened immediately. This is amazing. There is only one clash between rivals that could ever be number 1. The origins of the famous coming together in 1990 hark back to a clash between Prost and Senna whilst they were teammates at McLaren at the Japanese Grand Prix in 1989. That year, Prost was ahead in the standings going into the penultimate race, with Senna needing a positive result to take the title battle to a showdown. When making a move at the final chicane, Senna was squeezed and the pair made contact. Prost was out of the race, and whilst the Brazilian continued, he was later disqualified for rejoining the track but cutting the track at the chicane. Fast forward a season later, at the same circuit, Prost had moved to Ferrari in the wake of the fallout from everything that went on at McLaren, yet the pair was still the two leading contenders for the Drivers' Championship. Senna qualified on pole, and Prost knew he needed a positive result to take the battle to Australia. However, there was controversy once again, even before the race began, as the pole was moved to a grid slot on the dirty side of the track, on the right-hand side. Senna was incensed and lobbied for the order to be swapped, only for his pleas to be dismissed. Cue then the race, and Prost stole a march down into turn 1, but Senna lunged, taking both drivers out of the race. The incident is the most infamous in Formula 1 history, coupled with that legendary commentary line. Now, will Verstappen and Hamilton ultimately result in something similar? That is later to be seen. But if we have a rivalry between these two modern drivers that is anything like any of those great rivalries we've just listed, we're in for a hell of a season. Let us know in the comments section below if there's any great rivalries that we should have included in our top 5, and let us know if you think Hamilton and Verstappen has the ability to become the new Prost-Senna. And remember, hit subscribe here on the YouTube channel to stay up to date with everything we do in Formula 1, and get onto Twitter and Instagram at GPFans Global. That's at GPFans Global to stay abreast of all of our great content across all platforms.